Okay, so just going through the slides for this chapter, Origins and Development of the Cold War in Europe. Okay, so what you should have with you at this stage would be you could possibly have your textbook, you could have a mind map of this chapter. The first recording will be of the origins of the Cold War. There'll be another recording for the development or the manifestations of the Cold War. So the mind map that very likely I would have issued to the class would be this. So you can take down notes as you go along, or you can open the handout with the blanks for you to fill up as we go along. Right. So the way the chapter is organized is really you have the factors in this shade of green, impact of World War II on Europe. Let me just, yeah, this factor here broken up into 2 points. All right, and then you have another factor here, another group of factors here, the tensions between Soviet Union and America earlier on. All right, and then finally, wartime alliance breaks down. So it's very time based as well. If you think about the impact of World War One, it's actually post World War Two. Impact of World War Two is post World War Two, early tensions, and then you have within this time frame of 1945, really between Feb to July. Okay, so just some awareness of how the chapter is being organized. Then I'll talk about the other blue factors when we're talking about the development of the Cold War. In the past, we call it the manifestations. So the way the Cold War is playing out. So the factors in that we have for now would be the factors that actually contributed to the tensions and ultimately contributing to the outbreak of the Cold War. So the next few things will be events that happened during the Cold War. So as mentioned, the first bit here is how World War II impacted Europe, right? Very quickly, you know there were a lot of Europeans killed. Right, countries that were more severely affected would be Britain, France, Germany. We can throw in Russians as well in the mix, but later on we will see that although Russia suffered greatly, they did not end the war in a position of weakness, unlike Britain, France. In Germany, they were in a position of weakness. So we really see when we talk about Europe in ruins, the focus is, of course, Western Europe, okay, that happened to be struggling even more. Infrastructure damage, so be able to mention a few examples of infrastructure, amenities as well, widespread disease, malnutrition, right, and all these implications, all right. So you would need to think about as well would be how does this impact bring about a state of the, or how does it bring the world closer to the Cold War? Uh, Essentially, the decline of Western Europe set the stage for, okay, the rise or a new political landscape. So now that Europe is in decline, these were the former leaders of Western Europe, especially, there is the opportunity for new people to take center stage. And when the two new countries that took center stage was, were coming into the picture, uh, it could not accommodate both of them, leading to this potential clash, right? So the new political landscape that I hinted at just now was that, all right, we see the decline of the of Britain, France, and Germany, right? And we also see the appearance or the emergence of Soviet Union, USSR, and America as the superpowers. And the reason for this would be their geographical size, the sheer population, economic output, and military strength. They really emerged from the war in a very strong position, right? And as I shared with students in class as well, why is it that you have the emergence of superpowers? How does it actually bring about the Cold War? Essentially, then you have a battle for supremacy, all right? Battle to see who will come out on top, all right? And this Despite the fact that they were allies, there was still this competition, worsened by the fact or compounded by the fact that they were ideological enemies. So over time, or not over time, like in quite a short period of time, the alliances died, and then it was replaced by this competition which dominated almost the entire world, and largely that was what led to the outbreak of the Cold War. So that's how these two factors actually play out. Okay, so we're done with this and this. We'll move on to the next group of factors, competing ideologies as such. So, yes, this one happens to be one of the more popular factors that students use because it's easier, because it's built on what you know about America being a country that practice democracy, spreads democracy and capitalism. With Soviet Union, the clear idea is that they are a communist society. All right, their visions are competing. All right, I like the word competing, suggests that they are, it's not just that they're different, right? Sometimes difference can still bring about coexistence when it's competing, when it's contradicting. It means that actually only one can exist in a space. You can't have a country both having Monday, Tuesdays we'll do capitalism, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays we'll do communism. No, you can't have both. You choose one and then you go and then you live your life in that manner. Okay, so their vision is different. America wants to spread democracy. Soviet Union, by definition, communism wants to destroy capitalism, destroy the single defining quality of America. They protect freedom of speech, religion, assembly. For Soviet Union, their vision is a utopian society where property and work is shared. Everyone should have access to certain basic goods. That's part of what communists believes. I kind of jump here. Okay, in terms of elections or political arrangements, the democracy means free elections. And Soviet Union, their system was a one-party dictatorship. The Communist Party was the one leading Soviet Union. They appointed themselves using force, right? And the belief is that they are the only party that can bear the responsibility of leading the country. So it became a one-party dictatorship. Leader of the party means that you will be the leader of Soviet Union. Okay, wealth or economic, the economic arrangement, free market economy, bit tricky for some of you to understand. The general idea here is that everyone is free to open businesses, free to make profit. Unlike in the command economy, whereby ordinary people can't own businesses, they can't own factories, they can't make profits. Everything is organized by the government, allocated by the government. So factories in the country would be organized according to how the government would want it to be. In their thinking, there is no incentive to make profits, so it would actually blunt the spirit of wanting to exploit. That was their logic, right? So I'm here not to critique ideologies. I'm just painting out to you or putting it out to you that these ideologies are competing. They don't coexist. And as such, how does it lead to the Cold War? Okay, you bring in the earlier factor about the new political landscape, the decline of Western Europe, and then you have these two countries that are the new superpowers, but they cannot coexist. So they are going to indulge themselves in a competition. Okay, the next bullet point here would be their history of suspicion and mistrust. So it's not just that they have competing ideologies, their track record from like 1917 all the way up to 1939, their relationship was always going from bad to worse. All right, so bad relationship. When communist revolution happened in Russia, Russia is where Soviet Union is, or the original country before it became Soviet Union. They had their revolution, and then they called for worldwide revolution to overthrow capitalism, and capitalism is USA. So already it's like a challenge. At the Paris Peace Conference, there was a discussion about the need to possibly break up Germany, as suggested by France. And one of the counter arguments is that we cannot we as in Britain and America cannot allow for this because that we expect Germany to actually serve as a protection from the protect Europe from the spread of communism. All right, I find this table that I draw to be quite distracting. Okay, and then from 1918 to 1921, America, Britain sent soldiers to fight the communists. All right, so when Russia was experiencing, the growing pains of being a communist country, America and Britain tried as much as possible to snuff the spirit of communism in the country. So of course, it meant that the communists distrusted and despised Americans and British, who were the guardians of capitalism. Right? Even in the 1930s, Britain practiced appeasement. For example, in the case of Munich Agreement, because they hoped to use Germany again to curb the spread of communism in Europe. Yeah, so a bit of a trip down memory lane. If you recall, that was one of the reasons for appeasement. Okay, because they want to halt the spread of communism from Soviet Union into the rest of Europe. Okay, so all in all those, the history of suspicion and distrust meant that even when they became allies, it wasn't a relationship that was easy. It wasn't built on strong foundations, and it was built on years of distrust. And then they were glued together by a common enemy in the form of Germany. And in talking about this factor, you would need one example to talk about how even during the alliance it was ridden with problems. And the one that we used to illustrate this would be the delayed opening of the second front. All right, tensions surfaced during the alliance. Stalin wanted allies to open a second front as soon as possible. Okay, this is the Western Front, as some of you remember from our WA. Sorry, this is the Eastern Front. Eastern Front. Okay, this is the Western Front. Logically speaking, Soviet Union was bearing the brunt of the war in 1942. All right, it was very hard on the Soviet Union with waves and waves of German attacks. So the thinking was, since America and Britain are allies of the Soviet Union, if Britain and America open a front somewhere in France, okay, land their soldiers here, it would definitely ease the German attacks on Soviet Union, so that the Germans here could be redirected here, which would save the lives of the Soviet soldiers. So from 1942, it went to 43, still no second front. Only 1944, D-Day landing happened. So this 2-year wait caused Soviet Union to really distrust American sincerity in wanting to help Soviet Union fight the Germans. All right. So even during the alliance, it was riddled with unhappiness. All right. Stalin felt delay was to weaken the Soviet Union. All right, now we are done with this. Okay, we are left with these three. The conferences, all right, just a quick idea. Conferences simply refer to the allies coming together, talking about what the world could possibly look like once they are done with their job of defeating Germany and all the Axis powers. All right, and the relationship changes from Yalta. Okay, you mentioned just now there was a Tehran conference, but we are just mainly going to focus on Yalta, and then to Potsdam, and then the immediate implications of the disagreements at Potsdam. So Yalta was generally better. There was still more agreement compared to when they met at Potsdam. So Yalta, what was the setup? Allies were clearly winning the war. Soviet Union and America were the ones who were running the show primarily. So what we have here is you have America. What were their views like at the conference? All right, they wanted peace, safety, prosperity. They wanted democracy and capitalism to be the template for post World War II Europe, and they viewed Western Europe to be essential partners and their recovery to be important. They were concerned about Soviet-supported communist parties in Eastern Europe. They were worried about communism spreading. They were worried about trade with Europe being disrupted. So these were the reasons why they had such views. Whereas for Soviet Union, they view the buffer states in Eastern Europe, or the buffer states in Eastern Europe were viewed so the Eastern European countries were viewed as buffer states to prevent another invasion. So, okay, sorry, there's no map nearby. Don't want to cause you to be confused. So yeah, if you cannot visualize, okay, you may want to have a map with you to look at Eastern Europe. This refers to countries like Poland, Hungary, Romania. Soviet Union largely wanted those countries to be buffer states, all right, friendly states, all right, so that the West cannot pose a threat to them anymore. So this is reiterated by friendly Eastern Europe, and they wanted massive war reparations for all the damage and the destruction. Okay, these were their reasons. Okay, so could they come to some form of agreement despite having different views, despite having different persuasions? Okay, what is Yalta? Yalta is in Ukraine. At that time, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. It was a very long plane ride for Roosevelt, especially, who was very sick at this point of time. Stalin, of course, it was a lot closer to where he was, but Stalin made the case that since the war was still very much ongoing in Europe, he could not afford to leave his country when his country is in war. America and Britain was no longer under attack. So therefore, they were in a much stronger position. Therefore, they should make the trip. But of course, this also meant that for Stalin, he was the most comfortable at the conference as well. Right, so what were some of the agreements? There were a lot more agreements. I'm just picking out a few because you just need a few to make sense of it. Any more, we will dive deeper during our source-based case study work. So Soviet Union entered the war against against Japan once Germany was defeated. This was the agreement. And this was also the reason why America needed to play nice with Soviet Union during Yalta, but no longer the case when it was at Potsdam because they already found their new secret weapon. But yes, America needed to be nicer to Soviet Union because they wanted Soviet help to fight the Japanese. Once Germany was defeated, this was early May 1945, so it's going to happen soon. Germany to be divided into 4 zones, no one had problems with that. Berlin to be divided into 4 zones despite being in Soviet territory, this would be a problem later on. Liberated countries were to be allowed free elections, was something America wanted. All right, Big Three to join United Nations, it was something America wanted as well. Eastern Europe to be a Soviet sphere of influence, Stalin wanted a buffer zone. This was what Stalin wanted. Right, Stalin, sorry, I should put here USSR. At this juncture, I asked my students, do you foresee any potential disagreements? You could possibly pause to think about what I have just asked. Right, and then I'm just going to answer. Yes, the potential disagreements should be for this and this. Right, how do you allow for free elections but still ensure that Eastern Europe will be friendly to the Soviet Union? What happens if a country like Poland were to elect a leader, a party that is anti-communist, anti-Soviet? Free elections means to accept whatever outcome the free elections actually reveals. Okay, but at the same time, you already agreed that Soviet Union would have say over, would have influence over Eastern Europe. For me, I saw this as a potential conflict for sure. Other issues here, Stalin wanted Soviet border to move westwards into Poland. This is the original Soviet border. All right, and then basically Stalin says, nope, they want this to be part of the USSR, right? Poland can still remain as this. This can be Poland. And to make Poland feel better, they're going to give Poland this part of Germany. So now Poland will be all of this. Germany will lose. Sounds okay. Does it sound okay? Yeah, the people living here were Germans, so they're not Polish people. And it's not like a cut and paste. How do you bring millions of people from here, Polish people, to live here? Right? And what happens? Are you going to give them houses? Are you going to give them, if they have 20 cows and 50 horses, are you going to allow them to bring it over? Yeah, it presents a lot of problem. But of course, because Poland wasn't a big player, they're not part of the big three, they will just have to accept. Right? In exchange, okay, why did Britain agree to this? It's because, or why Britain wanted this is because Britain did not want Soviet Union to interfere with their influence in Greece. So it's like, all right, I'll let you have influence in Poland, Soviet Union. I'll let you expand your borders in Poland, just so that you don't give us a problem in Greece, in the Mediterranean, because we want our ships to pass through there and so on and so forth. Yep. So very much their own foreign policy could actually provide some space for compromise. Okay, so there were warm relations, but there were genuine differences. Okay, because Roosevelt initially did not like this arrangement. They don't like the idea of cutting, pasting borders. Right, and then of course, a few months later, unfortunately, there was change in leadership for both America. All right, because Roosevelt had passed away and replaced by Truman, who was the vice president. So he was elevated to the position of president, and he did not enjoy good relations with Stalin from the get go. Stalin did not know much about Truman as well, and of course, his perception of Truman would be that Truman would be someone easy to negotiate and manipulate, because Truman did not have experience on the international stage, right? So definitely, compared to Roosevelt, who was president since the Great Depression for America, yeah, he would of course have a lot more experience in that case. But actually, this meant that Truman was always quite eager to prove that he was no pushover. Churchill started the Potsdam Conference. Somewhere in the middle of the conference, he found out that his party, the Conservative Party, lost elections and replaced by Attlee, who was from the Labour Party. Attlee, although familiar with domestic politics, not as experienced in foreign affairs, and have not been dealing with Stalin prior to this. So he will find himself at times a bit out of his comfort zone. Right. So what's the issue here? You tend to be asked this question about explain why Potsdam Conference led to disagreements or led to the Cold War. It's really because of the disagreements they had at the Potsdam Conference. One of the things they were so upset about would be the increasing Soviet control in Eastern Europe. All right. So the war is really over by April. Right? This is already July. So in that few months between German surrender was May lah, but final surrender is May. Parts of Germany surrendered could have been a bit earlier. Eastern Europe, a lot of the places had already surrendered by April. So Soviet Union has already had time to step up their influence in areas where they occupied. So Stalin did not withdraw their Red Army from Eastern European countries that he had liberated. Right? It's like a policeman saved a child from a kidnapper and then decides to keep the child for himself. Yeah, that sort of thing. Okay, so does that analogy work? I hope it does. But yeah, basically they did not withdraw from the countries that they had freed from the Germans. All right, and they had set up a communist government in Poland, ignoring the wishes of the people. So they did conduct like some elections, but not done in proper. The Lublin Poles, the Poles that were formerly the leaders of Poland prior to World War II, who were under, who were Polish leaders who were hit in London, were arrested upon their return. back to Poland, back when they can't take part in the election. So increasingly, what happened was that Soviet Union is using their military to control the events in Eastern Europe in their attempt to set up friendly states. Right, they interfered with free elections. Therefore, to America, they were not honoring their word from Yalta Conference. Okay, so this was definitely a problem. Yep. So these are countries I'm talking about. Poland. At the end of the war, Soviet Union had occupied Poland. Because of course, when you're fighting from Soviet Union to Germany to get to Berlin, you have to fight through Poland. So you have to fight through all these areas, and they simply left their soldiers there to dictate the events that happened, much to the anger of America and Britain, who fought the war to remove or eliminate Nazi authoritarianism, only to increasingly see Soviet communist authoritarianism implanted in Europe. Right. Other issues, the Manhattan Project was revealed to Stalin during the Potsdam Conference. Truman had actually wanted to, not actually wanted, rushed the Manhattan Project's the final test so that he could actually be confident of having the weapon work, knowing that the weapon worked, and being able to share the information, sort of share the information with Stalin. I suspect for leverage, all right, to ensure, like, hey, come on, I have this weapon on the table. Yeah, it's really scary. You should be scared. You should stop being such a bully, Stalin, in Eastern Europe, because I have this. Stalin already knew about the weapon, so it possibly did not alter his plans that much. And of course, he would have viewed this as, oh, yeah, you're not being good ally, you're not sharing technology, right? If okay, sharing is caring, that sort of thing, and that means Soviet Union does not experience the care and the love from America. Therefore, they viewed it with great disdain and suspicion. What else did they disagree on? They disagreed over Germany. Stalin wanted to cripple Germany. Truman wanted to avoid another TOB. Stalin wanted extensive compensation, which Truman disagreed. Not to say that Truman wanted like something easy peasy for the Germans. All right, they still wanted reparations, but not to the extent that Stalin wanted. Then again, similar issue, America was not invaded, nor was it occupied by Germany in World War II, unlike the Soviet Union, who would have more grievances, more things to be upset about. All right. So, yep, Stalin wanted extensive compensation. Truman disagreed. Disagreements over how the politics would be like as well during the Potsdam Conference. Disagreements over other parts of Eastern Europe. Yeah. At Yalta, it was agreed that Eastern Europe would be a Soviet sphere. To Stalin, this meant setting up communist governments. Right? Truman saw this as a plan to control all of Europe. Truman had wanted to liberate Eastern Europe and call for free elections. This was not happening at all. So definitely unhappiness during the conference, and the consequence of it, disagreement, tensions, hostility, and then they start to take action against one another. Okay, but because they didn't want a war, so they just took hostile actions towards one another without war. America's decision to drop the atomic bomb, okay, this is just after Potsdam, was partially motivated to impress on Soviet Union how advanced American military was. Stalin also had similar technology, but they are about 4 years away, and they were working on the hydrogen bomb. How did America's decision to drop the bomb? Right, the way it was done was that it was in between Soviet Union's invasion of Japan. So America dropped the first bomb. Soviet Union declares war on Japan, cuts through cuts through Manchuria, making their way through Japan, and then America dropped the other bomb, like somewhat like in a rush to like quickly get a surrender. So Stalin viewed this like, hey, why do you need to drop the atomic bomb? We were going to help you anyway. Yeah. So What else happened? Worsening relations after Potsdam. Yeah, so this was mentioned earlier. We were putting more names to it. Eventually, it became called the Iron Curtain. Soviet Union's control over all of Eastern Europe. Okay, so we saw an example of what he did in Poland, whereby he eliminated leaders he did not like. He would arrest politicians, arrest journalists, close down newspapers if they spoke against the communist government, if they spoke against Stalin, if they spoke against the Soviet Union. Okay, salami tactics means that it was slowly slicing independence of the Eastern European countries and then to install their own people. An example would be Jan Masaryk, popular politician who had defeated communists in several smaller elections. Okay, he knew he was being tapped by Soviet agents. He knew his phone was being tapped, who had tried to kill him with a parcel bomb. He was later found dead below his bedroom window, likely assassinated. So all these actions to Stalin, he was saying that he needed this for his friendly buffer states to have influence over Soviet Union. To Truman, Stalin was simply empire building, a tyrant who wants to expand communism all throughout the world, to expand Soviet rule throughout all of Europe. And Stalin needed to be stopped. Okay, this is Jan Masaryk. So the final slide. So with that, with Truman's frustration at Stalin's empire building, he invited Churchill, who gave the famous Iron Curtain speech. It's your second source in your utility practice B, right, to talk about how a shadow has descended upon Europe, so on and so forth. All right, on one side you have the free world, on the other side you have the world that is controlled by the Soviet Union, authoritarian, and all that. So possibly this speech could even be that point whereby we say, all right, this is where we say the Cold War broke out, because the realization that you have these two competing superpowers who are trying to exert their influence all throughout Europe. Truman needed to do this, needed Churchill to give the speech, because to convince the Americans that America is needed to prevent another catastrophe from breaking out in Europe. Yeah, so give Truman the support to be involved in international affairs. Okay, so that marks the last few things. All right, the next video we'll be looking at the initiation of their rivalry when you have official policies that actually look into this.